Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host narrator, and I have a special announcement to make. I will be doing a mini-series called The Tales of Minefield. Also a reminder that the locations are made up, so they're not gonna be off of real places. And also, enjoy the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right in.
Have you always wondered when you move into a place that many people lived in before, or a building that's been here for more than 100 or so more years? Well, there's this one neighborhood in town that is considered to be the most oldest and haunted place of all. Before I could get into the story, every time a person or a new attendant enters the house, which is one of the most haunted streets, they never stayed for more than 13 days. That house is called the White Fox House. When I was little, my grandmother always tells me not to go into the White Fox House, which is at the very end of Minefield Drive. On the exact street, everyone always kept their distance away from the house. It looked brand new when I was little, and there was a family that lived there. I stayed at my grandma's ever since I was little. I'm growing up now, but over time, while I was playing with my friends or in town, there would always be rumors and whispers about the White Fox House. The family that once lived in that house left on the 13th day of their stay. They handed the keys over to my grandma, asking them to deliver them to the real estate agent, and they drove off and never came back to this neighborhood. One of my friends from school told me that the kids from the house that they lived in were living in a different neighborhood. I'd always been curious about the house, even though I've been told not to go into it nor go near it. Well, that changed on my 13th birthday. I was hosting a slumber party with my friends from school. We were laughing and playing games. Right as the sun was setting, one of my classmates thought it would be a good idea to go inside the White Fox House. Everyone whispered about it, but agreed since it was just a folk's tale. I asked why everyone was so excited about the White Fox House. A boy in my class who was about a year older than me told me that it was haunted and the most oldest house in the entire neighborhood. Saying that it was haunted, I was unsure if I wanted to believe it, but remembering my grandmother's warnings, curiosity got the best of me, and I agreed to go inside the house with them. My grandma would have to be asleep so we all could go. After an hour of waiting, my grandma was asleep in her room, so me and my friends snuck out of the house quietly. We stuffed pillows underneath our sleeping bags to make sure that it looked like we were sleeping. But one girl from my class stayed. My classmates asked if she wasn't coming with us. She said she's been in that house before and she refused to go back in since she was 8. She told us to not go inside the house if you want to see the fox lady. We ignored her warning and we went. We told her not to tell Grandma where we were going, and we left her alone in the house. Walking down the street with flashlights in hand, we made it to the last house on the street. It was a 2-story house with a balcony on the left wing. On the second floor, the windows were all closed, the front door was all boarded up. All of us went to the back of the house, and the back door was unlocked. In single file line, we all went inside. The kitchen and dining room looked like it was still in one piece. There was still furniture from the previous tenants. One of the boys in our class decided to do a challenge. One of the guys suggested that we find the Fox Lady's ghost. Whoever can find the Fox Lady's ghost, we can leave. But I reminded them that we had to be back by 6:30 a.m. I told them that my grandma wakes up at that time and how she always wakes up early to go on her morning walks. The guys agreed, and there would only be here for a short amount of time, which means there would be 2 teams. The girls and the boys would take each side of the house. The girls would take the left wing, while the guys took the right wing of the house. As we dispersed, I walked up ahead from the other girls. I went ahead and checked the downstairs rooms to see if I could find any coins or why this place was haunted by the Fox Lady. Going into one of the rooms, I noticed that the girls weren't with me and how we all had to stay together so that we won't get lost. I called out for one of my classmates' names, but they didn't respond. I thought it was weird, or did we get separated? The house wasn't that big. I went back to the kitchen to find that the kitchen door was all sealed off. There were nails on the door, along with wood panels. I tried pulling one of the panels off, but it won't budge. I called out for the rest of my classmates, but none of them couldn't hear me. Looking outside the kitchen window, I found a shoe that belonged to a girl in my class. I thought for a sec that they left me in this barricaded house alone, so I tried breaking the glass, but the glass was shatterproof. I was locked into one of the most oldest houses on my birthday on the entire street. But I heard voices coming from upstairs, along with footsteps. I thought that one of my friends was here with me in this house, but I didn't hear them going upstairs before. Leaving the kitchen and dining room, I ventured to the middle of the house. There was a grand vintage staircase that the carpet was still intact, but a little ripped, along with decorations that looked like it was from a party were all over the floor. But at the top of the stairs that divided the house was a fox statue. It was pretty big. It was half my size. Getting a closer look at the statue, it was pretty dirty, so I cleaned off most of the dust with my hands to make it all shiny, till I heard a scream coming from the right wing. Being scared, going towards the right wing, I went the other way to the left wing, running and locking the door. Hearing that scream set me off. I wanted to get out of the house right away, but I was locked in. In the long hallway of the left wing, venturing through it, I had to watch my step. The floor was so old and there were holes in the ground. Thinking of the last people that lived here, were they able to renovate this place before they left on their 13th stay? Thinking about the last people that stayed here, there was a couple that lived here not too long ago. They were pretty young. I would say they were in their mid-20s, but they left on their 13th stay. I noticed that the rooms I looked in were still filled with furniture and clothes, till I came across a very old photo that was somewhat much older than the house and the rest of the belongings that were left. There was a woman wearing a white fox mask on the side of her head with black hair and was wearing a white dress. The man next to her wasn't wearing a mask, but a traditional kimono. It looked like the ones from the TV drama Grandma always loved watching. The lady in the photo looked really beautiful. I carefully placed the photo down on the bed and left the room, walking further and deeper into the house. I came across a room at the very end of the hallway. There were talismans that were used for shrines or tarot card readings that my town would use. But getting a look at them, they were burned. But also, the door was covered in chains and scratch marks. All of a sudden, I could hear crying from the room and someone asking for help. I knocked on the door asking if they were okay or stuck in there. There was no response. I knocked again and again, but something happened when I knocked for the fourth time on the door. The chain locks made a clicking sound, and so did the door. The chains fell to the ground, and the door was opened, making a little creaking sound that echoed in the halls. Taking the doorknob, I opened it slowly, and when I entered the room, it was wrecked. The floor tiles came undone, the walls were peeling of paint, the bed frame was that of a metal, and there was something that I could recognize on the distance, but on the windows, it looked like there was something white. When I stepped in, getting a closer look, it was salt. There was a bunch of salt all over the windows in the room, and the mirrors were covered in a black cloth. Looking around, I made sure that it didn't touch anything because I did not know where it might have been. Thinking about the photo, I shouldn't have touched that. But I heard crying. It was getting louder. It was coming from the bathroom. When I got closer to the bathroom door frame, I could see a woman in a white dress that was barefoot, her face covered in a fox mask. Her face looked like it was stained with something white, tears falling down her face. I asked if she was okay and why she was crying, but when I looked at her and when I said that, she slowly turned her head towards me. In that very moment, something felt very off. The woman in front of me was starting to get taller. Her feet looked like she stepped in glass. And her black hair looked like a mess, like she got into a fight or something. She looked at me dead in the eyes through her mask, and she let out a bloody scream. I covered my ears due to how loud it was, but she made one step with her foot. So I backed up and she took another step. So I stayed still and she stayed still. I knew right in that moment I had to get out of here. Looking in the mirror in the bathroom, she didn't have a reflection, but the shadow under her grew into something terrifying. I made a run for it to the door. Running through the hallway, she was running behind me. I could hear her footsteps getting louder. When I made it to the door of the left wing, I immediately unlocked it, ran through it, and closed it again. I locked the door, trying to make sure that she didn't get out. She was banging on it, screaming, and trying to trick me to letting her get out of the left wing. But after some time, she suddenly stopped banging. I could hear footsteps backing away, going in another direction. Without any time, I ran down the stairs, but I felt like I was pushed. I fell down the flight of stairs and landed on the bottom steps in great pain. My arm was in so much pain. I think I broke it. Let out a scream of myself, trying to get up, but I couldn't. I looked up the stairs and there was the lady, except the door to the left wing was still closed. She stared at me dead in the eyes, and how scared I was. I started crying till I got up from the pain immediately and ran through the front door, running down the street in pain of my broken arm. I stopped in front of my house where all of my friends were, and my grandma was awake. All of them saw the state I was in and questioned how I got out of the house. Before I could say anything, I passed out due to exhaustion and pain. When I woke up, I was immediately in the hospital. I could see my grandma and two of my classmates sitting side by side across from me. I asked what happened. My grandma said that after we went inside the house, they heard screams coming from the room next over, and they all ran out. But hearing that side of the story made me think about the chills of what I saw that made me so horrified. I told them I didn't hear her scream in the next room over when I entered the house, and how I was way up ahead in the few other rooms. They asked for my side of the story. I told them what happened and how I met the white fox lady. My grandma and classmates were looking at me, deadly pale. But my grandma took my hand and asked which part of her face I saw. I told her I didn't see her full face. Half of it was covered in a white fox mask, but there was something on her cheek, and she was crying. My grandma told me I shouldn't have gone there, and now the lady of the house probably will think that she'll expect me to be there. Taking a deep breath, I forced out the words, "Why would she still be haunting that house?" Both of my classmates asked the same question to my grandma. My grandmother looked so worried and yet tired at the same time. She told us what happened to the white fox lady. She was a married woman, and in her mid-20s, she had 2 kids and a husband. Till one day, while she was cleaning the house, getting ready for Chinese New Year's, there was an accident. 2 of her kids were on the school bus heading home that was crushed by passing cars. Both of the children had passed away in the accident from the impact. This caused a huge impact on the mother and father. The wife was so sad and taken by grief and despair. She was starting to lose herself. The husband noticed every day she would go to the children's room on the right wing and wake them up and get their bags ready for school. Till one night, the couple had an argument. It was a pretty heated one. Till the husband accidentally killed his wife on the day of their kid's death. The wife, of course, was wearing a white dress and a white fox mask. She was going to give it to the children's grave, but she didn't get the chance to. Rumors escalated that the husband left the town to start a new life somewhere else, but Grandma said those were false. When she was little, she knew the couple's story that lived in the house and how people would leave exactly after 13 days. She said back in the 1950s, when the house was first built, that very family lived there, and how her great-great-grandmother was the one who witnessed the accident and the death. The husband turned himself in to the police soon. They came to the place and took the wife's body away. The husband was soon locked away for killing his wife, but can never forgive himself for what he just did. Grandma told us that the story about the couple that lived there, and told us people left on the 13th day on how they can't handle the woman's sadness over the place, feeling despair and crying. Hearing the story for the woman, I felt so sorry. After I was discharged, I started to get back to my normal routine. Still, looking at the house down the street and thinking about the story and how sad she was, I went to the nearest floral shop and picked out a bouquet of flowers, and I placed them on the door at the front of the house. Then I knocked on the door that was boarded up. I offered my condolences through the door, hoping that she would hear it. Then I got off the property and headed home. Ever since that day on my 13th birthday, I grew more cautious of the house and haunted locations in town. Most of the places in this town where I grew up or giving off scares. It was one of the most scariest places in the world where I grew up. But now, if my friends offered to go check out an abandoned house or place, I immediately turn it down. You don't know what could be there or die there. You could never come out as the same person again or make it out alive.